how have so many aspects of polytheistic traditions managed to survive in India, which is Hinduism, of course, and even thrive against the Abrahamic Christian, etc. Missionary and all that onslaught. This wisdom is needed, right? So it's a great question. I mean, polytheism has been eradicated the world over, more or less. If you look at the Americas, polytheism hardly survives. It used to be the original framework in the Americas, whether it's Northern America, Southern North America, South America. The indigenous cultures of the native people all essentially wiped out. Everyone has been converted. If people practice their old culture, it's in hiding mostly. When it comes to Europe, which used to practice the old Indo-European religion, entirely wiped out. Nothing remains. Africa, it's two foreign religions in Africa today. They hardly practice any of their original polytheistic faiths in Africa. If you look at Asia, if you look at Arabia, the polytheism is gone. If you look at Persia, wiped out, eradicated, annihilated, obliterated. If you look at Greece, Rome, wherever you go, even Indonesia to a large extent, and so on. So how come Hinduism still survives? How did that happen, despite the subcontinent being under foreign occupation for roughly 1,000 years, give or take? Right? I mean, if you look at Afghanistan, now finally polytheism is mostly gone. Until the 1990s, you still had more than 100,000 polytheists in Afghanistan. Natives, right? Obviously, now it's mostly gone. But in India, it still survives. How did this happen? What are the reasons for this? It's important for us to know. Maybe this wisdom is needed, like Vox Urania says. So, multiple reasons why Hinduism survived. It's thrived also, but now it is slowly getting eradicated. So what's the deal? So Hinduism has these characteristics: diversity, plurality. Hinduism is decentralized. It is self-organizing. It's got these different frameworks in different regions. Every village, every town, every city has a different framework. Every region in India has a different framework, and these frameworks are continuously evolving. So these are some of the reasons why Hinduism has survived. Polytheism has survived in India. Another reason is the Varna Jati system, which is demonized as the so-called caste system. Hinduism has survived because of the Varna Jati system. We've had this tremendous social resilience, cultural resilience, civilizational resilience because of these things, because of the diversity, because of the plurality, because the Hinduism is decentralized, because it's self-organizing, because of the Varna Jati system, etc. So another reason is that, see, Hinduism is not a religion that is a top-down religion. You destroy the church and the entire religion evaporates. It's not like that. Hinduism is deeply intertwined with every aspect. It's historically been deeply intertwined with every aspect of Indian social life. Daily rituals, festivals, your cultural norms, your dietary norms, your kinship, your traditions, your governance, your institutions, historically, all of that, right? Everything, I mean, everything was tradition, and Hinduism is part of that. Deep down in the villages, in big cities, everywhere, right? All the structures in Hinduism, in Indian polytheism, are decentralized. There's no top down structure like you have in the Abrahamic religions. In the Abrahamic religions, for example, in Christianity, you have a pope at the top, then you have cardinals, then you have bishops, and so on. It's like it's a military style organization. And if you take the top down, if you take the structure down, everything collapses. Hinduism is not like that, right? It's completely decentralized. There is no single institution. So there's no single institution that if you destroy it, Hinduism collapses. Simply doesn't work. It is, and Hinduism is so diverse, so plural, super syncretic. It's absorbed all kinds of local traditions, ways of life. It's spawned so many different versions of itself, like Buddhism, like Jainism, like Sikhism, right? um Tremendous philosophical depth, tremendous philosophical breadth, also depth as well as breadth. I mean, you have Vedanta, you have yoga, you have the Bhakti movement, you have the Tantric paths. So, in all of these different aspects of Hinduism, they appeal to various different kinds of people, different classes of people, people with different temperaments, right? Hinduism accommodates essentially every path you can imagine, every kind of person you can imagine, right? Then um, when India came under, let's say, Turkic occupation, and there was this sustained attempt over centuries to convert Indians by force. That time you had the Bhakti movement, right? And you had various very prominent figures who are considered saints, like Tukaram, like Mirabai, etc., who revitalized Indian spiritual life through various kinds of what the academics would call vernacular devotion, right? Open to all so-called castes, that sort of thing. So that's what Indian polytheism, or what you call Hinduism, has always been about. It's very resilient. It's very localized, right? The British were they simply could not understand Indian culture, civilization, because it was so diverse. They said it was a network of local cults everywhere we go. And the so-called Varnajati system, the so-called caste system, which actually is the Varnajati system, they simply could not wrap their minds around it. It was so complicated, so complex, right? Um, it's like a federation of traditions, that sort of thing. Um, and so the thing was that this Varnajati system, they said, the British used to say that it was, and Indian historians today will say it's got these insular structures, insular community structures that limit contact and intermarriage, etc., with each other, this endogamy, right? So because of this, the Varnas and Jatis, they became self-contained religious units, each of which would have its own rituals, its own traditions, its own lineages, its own way of doing things, right? And it was almost impossible to break, no matter how much the oppression was. And there were thousands, maybe tens of thousands of Varna Jatis. How do you dismantle that? How do you destroy that, right? So these are some of the reasons why Hinduism has endured. Hinduism has been so resilient. Um, if you look at ancient polytheistic traditions like the Roman polytheism, or the older Greek polytheism, they did not have this self-organizing structure, these evolving frameworks. They were very easy to destroy. Hinduism, on the other hand, the Indian subcontinent has been inhabited since about 70,000-80,000 years before today. It's the oldest society in the world, and that's why it's so incredibly complex. And that's one of the reasons why why Hinduism has survived. It's been so resilient, right? It's very adaptive. It's very elastic, right? It's the traditions are very deeply embedded in society, in civilization, and that's why it's survived. That's why it's adapted. But Hinduism is such that it needs state support to thrive. It needs society to be it needs the society to be prosperous in order to thrive. And those things have been taken away from us today. We don't have state support for Indian culture, Indian civilization, nothing at all. The Indian state is secular. So today it is dying a slow death. And there's no funding available for building new temples and for continuing the traditions. If you look at the other religions, they have tremendous funding, and their religious structures cropping up everywhere across the country. When was the last time you saw a new temple being built somewhere? I know Ram Mandir, that's one example. What other examples do you have? So today Hinduism is dying a slow death. Maybe in 50 years it will be gone. Perhaps. I hope not. But yeah.